Boomhauer 69 here. I'm just doing a little walking, talking video because I could use some exercise, and I thought this would be a lot more interesting of a video, doing a kind of walking, talking video instead of just sitting at a table talking, Well, I've been thinking lately about an idea I had for building little tiny houses for the homeless, and I kept thinking to myself, I'm no carpenter, I don't have building skills, I couldn't do it, but if I was a carpenter builder, how would I go about gathering materials and do it? And I don't even own a truck and trailer, so I wouldn't do this idea. But one of my ideas I always thought would be neat to do is like you see a lot of people do, they build a little tiny house thingy on the internet and they give it to a homeless person. I thought that would be neat to do someday. Help out the homeless in my area. I don't even currently right now know any whereabouts of any homeless people or where they're camped out in my area, I'd have to find some organizations, do some research, but I kind of got a pretty rough idea of a person I could talk to that could help with that situation. But what I would do is I would build some little kind of shed-like structure that would be pretty basic and give enough space for a homeless person to kind of rest their head on and to help encourage them to get up out of where they're at, because there's some homeless people out there I know you can't help because they just want to live that lifestyle, they become accustomed to it, or they just really addicted to drug use. And some people were asking me, well, you build these tiny house acts, what type of homeless person would you be helping? I would be helping the person that truly wants to get up and get out of the situation they're in, For example, let's say somebody had a house fire and their house burned down and they was trying to, and they lost, and they didn't have no money to rebuild, but they still maybe own the land still, or where the house used to be, and maybe build something for them and give it to them while they figure out what to do, or maybe somebody lost their rental property and they're out on the streets because their situation was tight, kind of people like that, not necessarily people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol and tobacco and all that stuff, I wouldn't. The only thing is I would do with them is I'd help them get into rehab and stuff like that if I knew how to do all that stuff. But I know my tiny house build idea I think would be neat to do for homeless people would be hard to do because, obviously, you just can't give to any old homeless person. That they would have to be in a certain spot and to be able to give it to them. Like, you can't just set it up on the sidewalk, like they do tents out in California and say, there you go, You'd have to go to the homeless person, well, show me your spot, and scope out where they're kind of camped out at before giving it to them, and see if you can, And then I also got to thinking what would also be neat to do is like in my area, find like maybe for sale, if I had the money, a big old vacant like parking lot, some old vacant car dealership that boarded up like it's never even existed and it's for sale and they're just looking to sell her to the highest bidder or whatever, and then on something like that, then you could get community involved and say, hey, and have a meetup, with communities in the area and other carpenters and tell them your idea. Let's together, get building materials and build tiny houses and let the community and churches and people want to help come and build a little tiny house structure and then help a homeless person out in them. Now, the only thing I've done a lot of research about these tiny house villages that a lot of states and areas are in big cities are doing for homeless people. A lot of them, I notice they have some strict, and I mean strict rules, like they have a curfew. You have to be back at your little house before this time and that time, blah blah blah. And to me, my question is to those people, well, how is one supposed to work? What if they got a funky third shift job where they gotta, you know, they gotta work a funky third shift? Yeah, I'm walking around my phone. But what if the homeless person, got a job and they work funky hours and they can't be back at that time? Then what are they gonna do? Granted, some of them probably will give them special treatment for the ones that are working and stuff, but to me, if I was going to build one of those tiny house communities, I wouldn't have all these strict rules like some of them are. Basically, the only rules I would have is don't do drugs, don't do alcohol, and don't be smoking funky stuff. Don't be smoking all kinds of, no smoking on the premises, and and you must be seeking work. That would be about it. Get it set up where they can have some P.O. boxes where they can, be able to have an address so they can look for a job. And that would be like my only requirement, would be like, you got to have a job and work in order to, and help them out. And then like the homeless people that are special needs, like the ones that suffer from mental illness, get them in and off the streets into the community, and then get them some sort of counselor where they can get help, where they can be institutionalized or whatever their needs are, whether they need to be in an institution, adult foster care, or they just simply need to be in like a low-income apartment place. Get them off the street and get them the help they need so they can live a healthier and better lifestyle. And there's a lot of, to think about. And that's what I would do. Now, if I couldn't do that, then what I would do is I would simply just try to, build maybe one or two at a time, and look around and get in touch with the homeless person. Say, all right, show me where you're camped at, and maybe set one up for them. Say, there you go. And somehow, obviously big structures, require heavy equipment to move. It ain't, that easy. I used to do odd jobs for a company that used to build barns and sheds and stuff, so I got a rough idea of, how sheds are built and stuff, But yeah, but me, I would just simply build something basic for the homeless person and give it to them and say, there you go, and stuff. Because like the tiny house villages, I kind of lean a little bit towards that, but then again, I'm just more kind of like one of those, just build something basic and simple and just give it to a homeless person wherever they're camped out at and say, there you go, and then kind of just walk away, and then if, they get caught with the structure and have to, move, say to them, oh, sorry for your loss or whatever, because it can be hard, But yeah, if I did like something like, the wind's picking up, but if I could do something like an open parking lot or some sort, or a vacant lot, and set up a tiny house community, then I would get volunteers to come and build little structures and make them nice, and and kind of have people, encourage them to let their creativity run wild, and stuff, and that's kind of what I think about at times on my tiny house idea, and build something just basic that would benefit them. I'd look for something basic and look at where the person is staying at. Maybe if I couldn't buy a big old lot and make like a community village thing, then what I would do is just simply talk to the homeless person if I had the skills and knowledge and was the means to, I should say. Then I would just simply find out where the homeless is camped out at and look over the spot and then say alright and see what I could do. Sorry about that. As I was walking, my camera battery died, but you guys got the gist of it. Towards the end, I was just repeating myself anyways. But anyways, when I was talking about, in my video, about like a basic tiny house build I would do for a homeless person and stuff, kind of what I'm kind of picturing in my head I'd like to do if I could. This is just a little sketch I made. I'm no drafter or sketch artist. I don't know how to actually do board drafting, as they call it. I don't know how to do none of that, but this is just a little, best to my knowledge, a little sketch I made. But basically what I would do is I'd build a square type structure, maybe about the size of like a standard 8x8 shed, and I would build something basic where you'd basically have like a bed over here, one of those little fold up roll-away beds, as I always call them, the kind that people sometimes have for guests when guests are staying at the house, like those little fold-up roll-away bed cots, and have room for that, and then over here, like, room for like a folding card table or just fold-up table, a basic one, and a couple of chairs and a nightstand and one of those vertical dressers, like a vertical stand-up dresser, not necessarily like one of those big long ones with the mirror or anything, but just a standard basic, vertical dresser or something, whatever I found. But yeah, I would, something, like this that would have enough room so they can kind of move out. And then when it comes to like windows and stuff, I forgot to mark that. W for window. I would, well, but anyways, what I would do is when it comes to windows, that would all depend on what I could get, I would at least try to have two windows, maybe one window in the front, and then one maybe next to where I would put the table, so they can sit at the table and have natural sunlight coming in, and then a door. But if I could, I would have at least at the most have like 3 windows at the most. If I was like, say, scouring the marketplace for used windows, somebody that was just upgrading windows and was able to get a cheap deal on windows or something, I would maybe add 3 windows at the most, one in the front, maybe a window in the back, in the middle, like most sheds have that little window in the rear, and then on the sides here, and then one on one of the sides, or maybe altogether have one on each side, and then one in the back and one in the front, and have 4 windows total, or just simply have 2 where you'd have one in the front and then one at the side where you'd put the table and that be it, or just simply 3, one in the back and one up front and then one on the side for where the table is. Because basically the structure I would build would be pretty basic. It'd just be a square about maybe the size of an 8x8 shed, where you'd have enough room for your little rollaway bed, and I would use maybe look into getting some fold up rollaway bed, as they call them, and use that like twin size, and use that for the bed, and then like a dresser, sort of vertical dresser and nightstand and table and 2 chairs. I'd have a table that would be able to sit 2 people comfortably, so that way if, like, I say, a human health services person, like a welfare caseworker type person came, they could sit at the table and open up their binders and get the information they need to help the homeless get out of the case they need. But yeah, there's a rough down here idea of what kind of shed structure on leans, or it's just a typical triangle style roof and pretty basic, which are not as a big a slope. It's just a rough. Again, I'm no drafter, but kind of how I would set up the front. Have one single door here and then a window over here. Just your basic old slide up and down. Basically whatever I could get. If I built this structure, I would probably be using most likely scrap building material and stuff. I know people that are builders and carpenters that could probably teach me how to build, and so I have a little help there. And then I also have a brother that's a drafter, and he could draw up better plans than I could. He's a computer drafter, so but yeah, that's basically my general idea. It's just something simple and basic if I could, like just maybe something small, even if you'd have something simple and basic like that for a homeless person to stay in is what I was kind of thinking. That would be this one right here idea is kind of would be like the luxury one I would like to build and give to a homeless person, but it would also depend on where their location at and the situation they're at, like where are they staying and their living situation, because obviously if they're living in a tent on a sidewalk or something, or they're in a heavily populated public area, it won't be no good. It wouldn't work. But if they was say living in some wooded area or something, you could probably do something like this. But again, it would be something pretty basic and simple. That's just one of the ideas. Another idea I had too was maybe some sort of push cart thingy, or maybe some sort of bicycle camper type dealie where they can attach it to their bicycle somehow or something. Again, I'm no builder or carpenter guy, so I don't know a whole lot about buildings and stuff, and it would all, depend on the location where the homeless person had set up their encampment at. I would kind of maybe look at the homeless people that are kind of, they're just a little bit out of the city limits. They found a nice little private wood area where they wouldn't be bothered too much, or something. I don't know. I never done this sort of thing before. I never helped out homeless. I never built homeless. The only thing I did is when I was in high school, I was a sophomore, and I helped out one time at a homeless soup kitchen serving food to the homeless, and that was it. That's all I ever did towards homelessness, and I always remember that, and I thought it would be neat to be able to do this thing. One thing is, maybe I thought about maybe starting up a Facebook page or something and try to get people who are in my area that who have the similar idea, maybe get together with a group of people and do something like that, and build a homeless encampment of some sort, and stuff. And since I kind of don't have the knowledge of building this structure, or wouldn't really know how to give it to a homeless person, since right now I don't know in my area where homeless are staying at. I don't know much, and there's a lot of things I don't know in order to basically have the green light to go ahead and do this, so it would be, I still plan on in the future, even if I couldn't give this to the homeless, I would still build one anyways, just to practice building skills, so later on down in the future I could do something. Again, there's a lot of areas I just don't know and what to do and how to go about it, but this is to give people a little bit more rougher idea of how I would go about building a little shed. Again, I would add maybe at the most 2 windows, one near where I would put the table and where the table would probably be set up, and a window in the front next to the door. And this is what I kind of picture the front would be, maybe one of those nine pane, they call it 9-pane doors, and a little slide up and down window, because the thing is you gotta remember, lighting's gonna be their main, natural lighting is gonna be their main source of, of getting light. So I'd add quite a few windows, maybe three windows at the most, one in the back, one in the front, and maybe one on the side, But yeah, that's just generally what I'm kind of leaning towards. But yeah. Now this is just kind of an idea that I thought would be kind of neat to do. It's not necessarily set in stone or anything, but just kind of a idea that I had floating around in my head and been trying to figure out how would I make this a reality or something if I got to the point where yeah, this would be a good thing to do and stuff. It's just a rough idea in my head, something that's not set in stone. Like yeah, I'm gonna do this. It's something I'd like to do, but it depends on the way life goes for me if I can do it. But yeah, if you like this sort of content, subscribe to my channel. You're gonna help me out there, and possibly make this something a reality. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you liked it, comment below some ideas you got and stuff to see, to help me out here, to make this kind of reality. I kind of like to it, it's not sinister. It's just something I was been juggling around in my head, I guess you can call it, or whatever. But again, comment below what you would do and your thoughts and ideas on helping the homeless or whatever the case may be, helping the homeless and stuff. So, yeah, I hope you all have a good day and thank you for watching.